What is up, podheads? Back with another episode of the Podioslave podcast. My name is Tony. I'm joined, as always, by Anthony. How you doing, man?
What's going on, man? I'm good. I was just laughing because it won't make the episode. I just had a blooper reel. Save it for the blooper reel. I'm good. You're good. We're loving life. What made me crack up is I was trying to think of the day of the week, and I was like, I'm doing pretty good for, and then I couldn't think of the day of the week.
It's Monday.
A Monday. So that shows you how my day's going.
Yeah, it is a Monday, and I'm also doing pretty good for a Monday that had some sun and some rain and some heat and some cool here in southern Maine. And we get to, recording days are the best days. We get to record today. We get to have a cool conversation, and, you know, always happy after. And we're doing these, like, I don't know if it comes through, but I'm usually permagrin doing the intros because the conversation was always fun.
Well, it's funny, not to get on the weather, but I think this is the first episode where I started in a t-shirt and ended in a hoodie.
You did, and the funny thing is, I recorded a little bit of convo that may or may not make the end of this episode because I haven't edited it yet. That will be news to you when you get to it, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, no, a night like this, and we'll intro the whole episode here shortly, but a night like this, you know, kind of reinvigorates the love for the pod for me. It's revisiting a legacy album with people that were there that created it in this case. So we'll get into that. But first, last week was mailbag week.
Yeah.
We brought back the mailbag.
And we had a great conversation, you and I, going back and forth with all these questions that people submitted. Some people we know, some people we don't. And that was a fun way to do it. I was happy to get questions from people we don't know, because in the past we've begged friends to ask questions, but this time we get to have people that we don't know ask us questions, and always fun to kind of look inward and like figure out what my favorite, what my karaoke song would be, or you know, stuff like that.
Or do you love Fall Out Boy?
Yeah, no, and it turns out I do like them, but I've never put them on actively. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and I'm glad we did that because we hadn't done that for like 3 years. We hadn't done a mailbag episode in like 3 years. Yeah, I mean, if this is your first episode with us, we do, I would say at this stage in the game, 75% interviews, 25% album deep dives. Actually, like this episode you're going to hear right now, but this is kind of an interview too. It's both. Yeah, it's actually both. But, and then we'll mix in the mailbag. We'll mix in, I don't know, you know, favorite last tracks on albums, favorite openers, all that stuff. Yeah.
It's funny you say we're 75% interviews and 25% other stuff. I remember when we had 3 interviews in a row, and we were like, holy shit, 3 weeks in a row, we're going to put out a conversation that we recorded with people in the industry. This is amazing. And now we not that we're beating them off with a stick, but like we could certainly go weekly if we wanted to.
All day. We could, there's enough there that we could do a couple. And if Nate was recording with us tonight, he would say, hey, let's do 2 episodes a week.
He did say that at one point about 3 years ago. And it's like, that's a great idea, Nate, but who's going to do all the work? So, and not that he wasn't doing it, like it just would have been double the work than what we were already doing. And, you know, It's hard to put an episode out a week.
Man. Yeah.
All right. What did we do tonight?
We revisited an album that's near and dear to our hearts. It's Set Your Goals Mutiny. You clicked on the episode. You probably came for the episode and came for Matt and came for Joe. But yeah, we invited Matt Wilson, one of the vocalists, and Joe Saucedo, bassist of Set Your Goals, to reminisce, reflect, you know, unearth all the memories from this era. And actually, when this episode comes out, Mutiny will be pretty much 18 years old, which is insane. Like, I remember when this dropped, we talked about it in the convo. You know, I think I had it delivered to my house. I was buying it for friends. I was there for the EP. Special band that hit us at a special time.
Anytime you've got a band that has got Goonies references to start off, you're just going to be like, let's fucking go. That's right in our wheelhouse. But this record's cool. These guys, Joe and Matt, were awesome to kind of dig into their memory banks about what it was like on their side of things. Because like we know what's like on our side of things, and you've heard us talk about that stuff. But it's always fun to get it from the source, the people who created it, and you know, dig into what life was like for them during, before, during, after, and where they're at today. Like that's always fun. I love that shit.
That's what it's all about. We've always said it. It's the how, why, and the what. We want to know. It's what is it? Behind the music. Behind the music for for us, really. I mean, it's questions we've had for years. It's why'd you sign here? What was the thought process of this theme? When you guys are getting bigger, did you feel it? Like we said, we know from our side to get it from the source. And I'll say this: I still listen to Mutiny at age 40 once a month.
Nice. That's awesome.
And that's a testament. Like there's not a ton of albums I still listen to that frequently. I can probably count them on both hands. Like it's not many.
This will be what, episode 225, I think. And that list has grown over the 225. I don't have the time to pour through all 225 episodes to find out what the list is, but your top 30 might be at 50 right now.
I know. Yeah, let me think here.
It's easy to do. It is
easy to do. The punchline is special record hit us at the right time. It was lightning in a bottle. If you were around in the mid 2000s for Set Your Goals, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's time to get into it, baby.
This. Yeah. Matt and Joe, Set Your Goals.
Joe, Matt, Set Your Goals in the house. And you're not in a hotel. Our last guest last week was in a hotel room together. You guys are in separate locations.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, you're not in a hotel bed together like the guys from 4 Years Strong.
I mean, we certainly have shared hotel beds in the past, but
it might make it easier if we were.
Yeah.
It's surprising that as someone who edits these things, and right now we're 4 guys on 4 tracks, which is kind of nice. When you see 2 people in the same track, you're like, "Ooh, this could get tricky," but it was really good. Those guys were seasoned pros too, so made things easier on my end. And that's a little inside baseball, but yeah, excited to have you guys on tonight.
Very cool. Excited to be here.
Joe, the last time Tony and I saw you was in our neck of the woods, where we live in Portland, Maine. So you were on tour with Thursday.
I was.
And what, Guitar Tech? Is that what the...
Yeah. I was and kind of filling in for a few songs as well. It was like just as things started kind of kicking back off after COVID. So, and Norm, who's playing guitar with him now from Texas is a reason, got COVID just before a sold out Irving Plaza show. So a bunch of us had to learn some songs, and I was like, I could figure it all out. And then I realized that a lot of their songs are very complicated. So I got like maybe a song and a half in, and that's what I played. So, so we did that for a few, like I think the rest of the tour.
So yeah, you were in the Portland show then, right, at Aura?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was January of 22, maybe. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I texted with them for a little bit now. So, yeah.
Well, I was there with my sister, who you know, and I go, "Is that Joe?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I was like, the last time I saw Joe was at a Clippers game in like 2013. Remember we all went to that
Clippers game? Was it
in LA?
I
stumped you. It happened. Trust me.
I do remember the Clippers game, but I think that was so long ago that I can't remember the details. I remember there was almost a fight there. I think one of the Clippers players got into a little altercation with a fan.
I think it was a family member of Matt Barnes.
Oh, nice,
right.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Great.
And so Matt, last time I saw you was definitely a Set Your Goals gig many years ago.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, we're excited to kind of dig into the story a little bit and hit up, go down memory lane a little bit if you guys are down for that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'll do my best. I'm an old man. I can't remember things.
Well, we have questions that may lead you down past that, open up memories too, and that's hopefully if all goes well, that's what's going to happen here. So
you guys we're in 2024. So you guys started about 20 years ago. I know, Joe, you came in about a year into it.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt, when you guys started on the East Coast, it trickled to the East Coast really quick. It did. Yeah. Message boards, online, all that stuff. And it was always hardcore kids playing pop punk. So was that the thing going, like when you guys started, was that what you were going for? Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, so there was this local band from the Bay Area called Towards an End, and they were all hardcore kids, so they would play the hardcore shows, and they were kind of like, it's hard to describe them because they don't really sound like anyone else, but like, I guess kind of like Shelter mixed with like kind of pop punk and emo. I don't know, but they would play all the local shows, and we were like, let's kind of emulate that vibe. Let's do like pop punk public breakdowns. And Newfound Glory was around, obviously, so we were listening to a lot of them and Saves the Day. Jordan, I think, was more from like the pop punk side of things. He was really into Blink-182, and he was just a very gifted songwriter. So yeah, the plan was just kind of like, let's play local hardcore shows, but it'll be pop punk, it'll be fun. It's like a novelty, and it just kind of took off and turned into our career for like over a decade.
Was it always two singers? Like, was that from the get-go?
Yes. Originally, we tried out our friend Justin, who sings in a hardcore band called Alcatraz, who we did many of our first tours with. It was he and I, and then his scheduling just kind of didn't add up, or didn't line up with ours. He had to take the bus everywhere, so he would miss a lot of practices, and it just kind of like worked itself out. Jordan was like, you know what, I'd like to sing too, so we went with that. Sort of naturally evolved that way.
Joe, you joined a little bit after that. How does that all come about?
Yeah, I think it all happened because my old band. I was in an old band like from a small town in Northern California called Set It Straight, and then I think we played with Time for a Living. And Jordan had played with that band, prior, but he wasn't. I don't think he was playing with the band at the time. He was just at the show. It's like a show in Sacramento or Davis or something like that, and he came up to me and started talking to me, and we were talking about like some tours and stuff. And my band Set It Straight was like planning a tour up the West Coast, up to like Seattle and whatever. And I think he wanted to join forces and maybe put together a tour. And I think at that point in time, they were kind of you guys were going through a couple bass players or something like that, Matt.
Yeah.
And so I think he was like, yeah, we just one of our bass player didn't work out, and we need somebody to fill in for this tour. And since we're on it together, you mind playing? I was like, sure. And one thing led to another, and I was in the band.
So the first EP must have been out at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was like our demo that later got pressed as an EP once we signed to Eulogy. But our first demo was on Straight On Records, who also put out like The Warriors and Make Move and some of that stuff. I think maybe Final Fight, some of those like local SoCal bands. Yeah. I think we had Mike from Allegiance on bass, and then he went to law school thing.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I remember Allegiance, yeah.
Yeah, so we needed a full-time gig dog.
So there was no tryout. It was just, Joe, you're on tour with us. Do you mind coming over and slapping the bass, basically?
Yeah, sort of like that. I can't quite remember the details. I think it was like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, if you guys want me to play with you guys, I'm down. And Jordan's like, maybe, we'll figure it out. And yeah, I think, they got a call one day and got confirmed.
Well, because I know like on the East Coast, I was a big B9 board guy, and I would say I was more on the lurker side than poster.
Probably for the best, yeah.
It was for the best. I wasn't getting in that soup.
Yeah, less incriminating evidence these days.
Yeah, the Wayback Machine still exists, everyone. So everyone can see what you posted. But there was, for lack of better words, there was hype. There was a ton of hype for you guys, and I knew it. I think everyone that was on like those types of forums knew it. Did you guys feel that?
I was also, on there a lot as mostly a lurker as well, but I was active on there for a period of time, and I remember seeing the hype and being like, "Oh no, this is a bandwagon, a hardcore bandwagon." When I see one, it was like you could not say anything bad about our band; you would just get torn apart. And sure enough, we get a little bigger. 6 or 12 months go by, and then it was like complete 180 flip as they do. And
you got a jawbreaker.
It was like, oh, you still like Set Your Goals? That's so lame. Sellouts. So it was like, all right, that's just the nature of the beast.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I the band Set It Straight that I mentioned, we toured, or actually we recorded with Zach Owen, who recorded the demo, the Set Your Goals demo. And I remember we were listening to that. We actually listened to that a couple times, like, going back and forth between where we were staying in the studio, and like I just remember our guitar player, like at the time, was like, man, this band's going to be huge or something like that. And I was just like, haha, yeah, that's good. These guys are cool. And I had no idea, obviously, at that point that I'd end up in the band. But yeah, the buzz was real for sure.
It was real. Yeah,
and then you end up in the band, and you guys are getting ready to probably write and create Mutiny, but that's got to, that early on, you're probably it's going to freak you out a little bit. All that kind of buzz around everything, or do you just like, nah, cool, we'll write songs, we'll just figure it out?
Yeah, it freaked me out because I saw it coming. I was like, they're gonna turn on us, Hardcore kids are fickle. as much as I love hardcore and it's done so much for me, it is what it is, and then they all have amnesia. So
It's very true.
It is what it is.
Well, the other thing you guys had going for you is you toured, at least from my perspective, you guys toured all the time. Like even before Mutiny came out, I saw you guys a couple times. I saw you at the Tiger's Den or Romans, whatever it was called at the time, with Guns Up and Lost for Words, and then another show with like the Warriors and Guns Up. And we, like, I personally took that for granted. Like, this band's from across the fucking country, and I'm seeing you guys twice, like in hall shows. But yeah, like that's the thing, is like you guys were putting boots on the ground, touring and whatnot. And I think that's what added to the hype, is you could go see them live, where some bands aren't as accessible.
Yeah, I think that I think touring is kind of the lifeblood of any young band, or any band that wants to grow. It's really just a way to put gas in the tank. You know what I mean? And in the proverbial sense, like you're really gonna get in front of a lot of faces, and you're gonna get heard in a lot of sets of ears. And I other than touring, I think that like hardcoremp3.com also really, that was when that was taking off, and like people were still streaming, or starting on the streaming and downloading kick. It was really kicking into high gear. So that was like around like MySpace Music, Hardcore MP3, MP3.com, all that stuff. Like we put up our demo, and kids had such an overwhelming response to it. We didn't really have a choice. We like had to go on tour. Everyone was like, come to our town. So we just booked our own tours at first. And then we had, booking agents and managers coming to our shows asking if they could work with us. Snowballed very fast.
Is that how Eulogy came into the picture?
Yeah, more or less. The Warriors really vouched for them, like they were on Eulogy, and they were like, like, we're done with Straight On, like Eulogy is actually going to get us paid, like, Derek didn't pay us. And they had a falling out with Derek from Straight On, which we kind of did too. I think just because we wanted to go to a label that would like get us in stores and stuff, and get us like kind of better distro and get us in front of more people. He was kind of like, he was bitter about that. But yeah, that's just kind of how that worked out. It had it not been for the Warriors, like kind of vouching for Eulogy, we probably wouldn't have gone with them. And in the end, they kind of burned us both.
Yeah.
Well, if I remember in the moment, like looking at like the labels that were kind of on top, the Victories, the Trust Kills, I feel like you guys could have gone anywhere. Do you guys feel that?
We had like all the major hardcore options knocking at our door for sure. Like we had Victory. I don't know that Epitaph ever reached out until until our second record, and our manager reached out to them, and that ended up being just a blessing in disguise. It got us out of our ridiculous buyout with Eulogy, which was absurdly high. They were the only ones who could afford it. And, they paid it off with like a crazy sick publishing deal, and got us on like, which worked for both parties. They got us on like the Madden game, which is the top selling sports video game. And it generated all this publishing money. And then over time it paid that off, but also like it kept them happy. But yeah, no, Epitaph treated us great. I have no complaints about them. They're very stand-up label to this day. And it's because they're just run by someone in music who gets it, who knows what it's like to be a struggle.
For sure.
Yeah, that certainly I would think colors a lot of what they do, and makes sense as to like, let's not screw any of the people on their way up and try to help them, foster what they could be. Madden, that's amazing. I mean, you guys must have been like, pinch me, this can't even be happening.
Yeah, we thought we were done as a band. So like we were like, no, buy out this ridiculous like price contract, like where Eulogy's just gonna shelf the next record out of spite. We're done. We're dead on the vine. But worked out.
So we've chatted with all different types of bands on this podcast, and for some like the major label stuff, you hear all the stories about like the label showcases. You'll go perform for the label and small club. Was there any of that even at your stage? Like,
we really didn't want to play that game. I mean,
yeah.
Our manager was like, "Oh, you got to play the game. You got to do this and that." And they also managed. Our manager also managed All Time Low. And, they were doing that whole song and dance, and we were like, yeah, we're kind of a different band, like a lot more rough around the edges. We're from the hardcore world. You know, they were a lot younger than us. They were straight up pop punk. They were going solely for like the Warped Tour crowd and beyond. And we were from a different world. Yeah, I don't know. We never really wanted to do stuff that would like really make us cringe later out, you know, like looking back on it later on. And I think mostly, for the most part, we didn't. We did do the AP magazine cover, which is pretty cringe, but
I
that
thought
was
that
like,
was kind of cool.
I'm looking that up right now.
it was fun, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't like regret doing it at all. But they were like, yeah, you know, if you do this cover, like they'll put you on the AP tour. And then they did, and it was a lot of fun. So we put on what, like the silly,
It was the prom.
the
It was
costume.
it was like a prom.
Oh, I feel like I remember this. I
Yeah.
probably have it.
I definitely have.
Tony's
I think
holding
I
it.
have the magazine somewhere. I
They
think
made-
it's actually.
Prom king crown. It was just so silly.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the
yeah.
back there, yeah.
But yeah, what a time.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, you got to do stuff like that. That's amazing, and that's a keepsake forever. You know, you were, hey, we're on AP. This is fucking cool.
Yeah, I like showed my dad. I'm like, oh, you can go to like any store and find me on the album, on the cover of the magazine. Like, that's kind of cool.
So Joe, how was it joining like the moving train? Because Ray, I'm not saying it's because of you, Joe, but when you joined, things went off. No.
Yeah, it was all me.
It was all you.
Yes.
It's my bass playing. No.
Did you join right after we recorded Mutiny?
No. I joined in 2000, end of 2005. It was for
Oh, wow,
that Turmoil
yeah.
run. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Actually, it was funny because like I wasn't expecting to kind of like for things to happen the way they did. I was just like, all right, well, you know, I was like working, you know, a full-time job at Kinko's, which a lot of hardcore kids at the time were getting their start in Kinko's, and
It's smart. You can print flyers there. I mean,
totally, yeah. I think what's his name? What's that first guitar player's name from American Nightmare? Is it Oisey?
Ace.
Yeah, he
From
actually worked at the Kinko's that I worked at in Reading. Kind of fun
I used
fun
to-
history.
Being pen pals back then, you know, like everyone was on AIM and all that stuff. I was like email pen pals with a bunch of hardcore dudes, and like one of them was Jesse from Reading. And
Yeah.
we had it, and then he was like, "Yeah, I'm moving to Boston. I'm going to start this band with the guy from In My Eyes." And it ended up being American Nightmare. And it was like,
Nice.
"Well, you're now in the biggest band in hardcore. Like, this is crazy."
Yeah, we worked at the same Kinko's. We probably used the same copy machines. Yeah, it was like I said. It just wasn't. I was like, man, I'm so focused on just like working and trying to make a paycheck, and Jordan's like, yeah, we'll probably start touring or whatever, and then moved down to the Bay Area. I'm not from Reading, by the way. I just want to make that known. I don't know if anybody out there knows Reading, California, but it's not.
No clue. No
It's
idea.
not. It is what it is. Yeah, I moved down to the Bay Area. I actually moved in with Matt in Walnut Creek. That was my first landing spot in the Bay Area. And one day we were like, Jordan was like, yeah, we're gonna go on tour, or we're gonna go record this record. We go up to Seattle, record Mutiny, and then just from there it was just like nonstop. So it was pretty wild. It was definitely like the biggest like culture shock for me, I think, because I grew up in LA. I didn't really expect to kind of leave, anywhere I was living. I kind of was just like figure out a 9-to-5 job and do that for the rest of my life. And I'm so glad that it happened the way it did, because it's kind of opened up a lot of doors for me. But yeah, pretty wild. Actually, I mean, I think the first time coming to Boston was like that show that you were talking about with Guns Up and Lost for Words, I think it was, or I can't remember. It was like Colin of Arabia, Guns Up.
It was that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the first time I was in Boston. I was like, man, this town's kind of wild. It's cool.
Well, it's funny. Tony and I were like, we have memories of this era, but we're trying to time travel back to then. And like, I thought of like the hype on the Bridge 9 board. And so like, there's this hype across, we'll call it the scene, right? Because I think at that point, pre-Mutiny, you were big in like the B9 world, but at that point, you probably crossed over into like the absolute punk world at that point. So there's all this hype building. You signed to Eulogy, which not the biggest label, not the smallest label. There's all this hype and expectations. Going to start writing Mutiny, did you feel that? Did you feel like shit? You know, if we do this, these people are gonna think this. If we do that, those people are gonna think that. Was there any of that?
I remember having this exact conversation. It was either with maybe Jordan and or Mikey in the studio while we were recording. We're like, or not in the studio, but like right after it came out, and we were talking about it, and we are like, wow, these demos, like it was something like the demos had leaked, and we were like, fuck, like we were either in the studio or the record was about to come out. And,
I remember that. I remember this happening deep in my brain.
And then we were like, wow, these kids love it. Like, it's being received well. Like, and then the record came out and it was like, it exploded. And we were like, wow, we just like kind of rushed that and wrote half of it in the studio. So if kids are that impressed by that, like, imagine what happens if we go in prepared.
Little did we know we were never prepared.
Yes.
Any record we ever put out was
impossible.
Like, never. It was never completed. It was when we went into the studio. I think it was just like that was just the trend for the band was right as we go.
You know what they call that?
Yeah.
A constant work in progress.
Hey, there you go.
Anthony with the dad jokes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Never
gotta sneak
fails.
one in.
Once a week.
we did this movie, The Death of Us, and we were much more prepared for that, and it really showed. You know what I mean? It was like, it took us to the next echelon after that.
Well, and probably at that time, I mean, do you even know, you kind of know because you put stuff out, but do you really even know how to like be prepared at that age?
No way.
Yeah.
No. I was just along for the ride.
Yeah, but for real, it was just like we were riding by the seat of our pants. And by the time This Will Be the Death of Us came out, or came time to record that, we actually knew how to write songs.
And that's the thing is, I love talking about this stage, like, because you guys, I'm guessing 23, 24, early 20s, we'll say. You don't know shit. You don't know anything about life. You don't know, for the most part, you don't know anything about touring in the aggregate. So, like, you throw in a record deal, you throw in touring, you throw in the fact, you want to make sure you have the right guys that you're on tour with. A lot can go wrong. And then with you guys, you get the hype beast going, you know what I mean? So it's like, that must have been tough.
It was a wild ride.
Again, I was just the new guy at the time. So it's like even up until now, it's just like just anything we ever did, I was just like, I'm just happy to be here and be on tour.
I love it.
It's like you just want me to play bass and write my parts. Cool, I'll do that.
I'm in. I'm so in.
Business? I don't know. I'm just a bass player.
So you guys said something a little earlier when we started talking about how the hardcore kids playing pop punk and pop punk with breakdowns, and obviously New Found Glory was doing a little of that around this time, but not a lot of bands doing that, and then it kind of exploded around this time. Did you guys feel like you were on the ground floor while this was happening, or was it just like, this is what we want to make, we're cool with it, and we'll see what happens? But it certainly had a moment.
It did. We didn't really see any of it coming, and I feel like didn't fully reap the benefits of it either. We
I agree. I agree.
Helped kick it off. Like I feel like New Found Glory like started the whole thing, and then like we kind of like kicked off this hype train, and then these other bands came along and got way bigger and got way more money, and I don't know, did all these other things that we never got to do. But it's cool because I don't know, a lot of bands respected us at least, which was satisfying.
I think you guys probably did it as good as anyone because it wasn't always verse chorus breakdown. You know what I mean? And there wasn't a breakdown in every song, right? I mean, I think they were thoughtful songs, and I think having the context of, coming up in the hardcore scene, tasteful gang vocals, it wasn't just to throw in there. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, I'd have to look at their catalog, but like late 2000s Victory stuff, then you start getting into like the clone of the clone of you guys, and it's just completely different.
Yeah, I think, we weren't the most like tight together band live, but I think that like the feeling was there and it was genuine. I mean, I know that that's true, and I think kids resonated with that,
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about, what was it, 2017? You guys did some stuff, played some shows, and people were, there's videos on YouTube that people are very into it. So yeah, you definitely resonated.
Yeah, that Chain Reaction show, that was Jesus, 7 or 8 years ago, people were going off.
Yeah.
There's a video on YouTube of one of the times we played the Alpine in Ventura, and I remember counting the stage dives in it one time, and it's like for 120. I like lost count 120, I think. It's like our sets weren't even that long. I think it was probably 20 minutes, but 17 minutes or something. It is crazy. It's just the whole time.
I think at heart we were always just kind of like, we were all just like punk and hardcore kids, and I think that the world that we kind of like were brought into, I don't think any of us were really prepared to like be doing that kind of thing. I don't think any of us really cared too much for the idea of being like a rock star per se. I think we were all just having fun with it, and I think that just like, I mean, the tours that we got on, with like Newfound, or like, when we did like that tour with Paramore and stuff like that, just like those were all just kind of, even I think the Newfound stuff made the most sense, but it's like the tours where we all just like really kind of just like had the best times were like when we were doing like tours with like 4 Year Strong and like Comeback Kid, Fireworks and stuff like that. We all just wanted to have fun and hang out and just not have to work a real job. The idea of like being on a major label, or being like a Green Day or something like that, or even just like, it just never, for me personally, I don't think I ever really, I never really thought about the band as being one of those bands. So I think that is part of the reason why I think it kind of kept us where we were, is because we never, I don't think we really were pushing to be like, I mean, if it happened, I think we would have been cool with it. I mean, I think that's kind of just like how it happened with where we were. Everybody was just cool to be able to do what we were doing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was ever, we never did it to make a shit ton of money and be rock stars.
Well, the other thing is there wasn't really a blueprint, really.
Mm-mm.
I mean, Newfound Glory took it to a major. Civ took it to Lava. You know what I mean? Like there was stair steps to get to that top level, but beyond that, like there was no playbook, right? I mean, you guys were kind of writing the playbook, as Tony said. It was not many. Through this lens now, it's like, yeah, a lot of bands kind of did that, but at that time, not really. That's why I was hyped. Think about it.
Yeah, I mean, we just, our main concern was getting on stage and just being as intense as possible. Just like we wanted that energy. We wanted kids to just go off. So that if you saw our band, like there was never a day where we were like half-assing it. We were like, I just want to go on stage and lose my mind, and everyone else lose their mind. And I don't really care about like how we're marketed outside that to the square world of fucking suits and labels and stuff. It's like a drug that sells itself.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what it is. You're right, because and it's, you said something about YouTube, and obviously today, 2024, easy to pull up a bunch of different things from 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, depending on who took video. And to have that live on, that's got to be pretty badass. Like, just to be able to see the effect that you had in the moment whenever you want to. In your pocket, you can pull it up. That's pretty gnarly.
That's pretty true.
An amazing thing. Anytime I come across an old video, I'm like, man, that was fun.
It's so funny because I often forget about that part of my life. It's been so long, even since like Set Your Goals did like the reunion stuff, so to speak. That was like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just like every now and again, it's just like whenever people ask like, oh, are you a musician, stuff like that? Because I work on guitars now. I like tech for bands and stuff, and that question always gets asked, like, did you what do you play? And I was like, well, I did this back in the day or whatever. And then every now and again I go down rabbit holes of like pulling that stuff up. And it's like, oh, that's what I did. Okay. It is cool to see like what you guys are talking about. Just like I took that for granted back in the day, and it's just like to see the impact that like I was at this seminar for guitar repair and building in where it was, upstate Michigan somewhere. And this kid that is like super into like the CNC world and programming stuff to like help people build guitars and whatnot. We were just like shooting the shit at breakfast one day, and he's like, somehow it got brought up that I was in Set Your Goals, and he freaked out. He's like, oh, you're in Set Your Goals. I was like, how the fuck do you know this band? Like it's crazy. Like, it's cool. It's very cool to see, and it's cool to reminisce about it and look back at it and be like, oh shit, okay. What I did actually did kind of resonate with people. It's pretty cool.
Well, it's funny, like this album came out 18 years ago, And when I got into this type of music in like
so
2002, that would have been the equivalent of something coming out in 1984. And I would have been like, that was so fucking long ago. But now it's like, that was yesterday, you know?
Yeah, it was yesterday, yeah.
It does feel that way, yeah.
Wow.
Simultaneously yesterday and a million years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember like being in that fucking, was it that grimy basement of whatever building it was in, recording that record with with Brett, and it's just like, man, this is crazy that like Nirvana, like he has all these Nirvana like demos and stuff like that, or like Kurt Cobain demos and shit like that. It's like,
yeah,
pretty crazy to think back on that.
So you guys record it, you set up in Seattle, and that knowing that makes sense given the intro song, but you guys leaned heavy into the pirate mutiny theme. So whose idea was that? Was that you, Matt?
Is it Jordan?
It was our old guitarist Dave. He just hatched that up one day in the studio on the spot, and then he's like, guys, why don't we just make it like a themed album? And then we just took it and ran with it. Jordan was like, oh my god, like Jordan loves huge movie buff, so he just took it and ran with it.
Because I mean, it was there in the EP with the Goonies song. Like there was elements of that, and then you definitely lean into it. I mean, the album. I don't know if you can see it, but I have the CD booklet there, the map. I put that. You know, it's the Mutiny Views music video. You get Mutiny, Pirates Life from Me. I mean, it's throughout the album. And if you're not into pirates, you're like, I'm probably out on this.
Don't judge a book by its pirate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Dude, my dad once I started getting tattoos, he's like, you look like a pirate. And I was just like, well,
yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna make an album about it.
Yeah.
You only do.
Have you heard our band? Have you heard the first record?
Going to different towns, you know, getting some booty and moving on. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
Well, like I loved the theme of behind it made sense and was like, forget the pirate thing, but like we're doing things on our terms. Was that like a mantra collectively, or did it kind of morph into that, or was that like from the onset?
We did come up with the Mutiny theme in the studio collectively. I mean, you know, Dave pitched the idea, like I said, but yeah, the whole analogy to the like record business or the music business, I don't know. I think that was just some clever writing on Jordan's part, honestly.
Well, it worked. I mean, the music business is Troy's bucket, right? I mean, let's be honest. If we're gonna go Goonies route here, the second you write up Troy's bucket, man, you've sold out.
It's all over. It's all over. So that, I don't know how many months it took you guys to write it, but you write it up in Seattle. It comes out. Do you guys remember the response? I remember buying it. I think I ordered it online. This is where it gets hazy. I'm like, was that even a thing? Yeah, you could order stuff online.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, I remember getting it that summer, and I bought like a bunch of copies for all my college buddies and like was handing them out like candy. But like, do you remember the response when that came out?
I remember the East Coast being nuts. I remember I don't think I've ever like, I feel like the East Coast kind of sucked that up like and appreciated it most, because I don't think I've ever played shows that fucking crazy. It's like New York, like playing like Hugo's Basement in Long Island, and you know, it's like it was just like it definitely showed, you know. And then going like overseas to like England and stuff like that and seeing the response there and stuff like that, I was just like, oh fuck, this is crazy. The fact that we're like going overseas and kids are, you know, singing this shit, you know, as loud as anybody else. And it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild to see that the reaction to the record, and especially being somebody who, you know, is so new to the band and stuff like that, you know. But, and I mean, I think that like that record really kind of was like the best I was as a musician, or pretty close to it. Or at least I was like figuring out how to actually play my instrument. And I think that was like, you know, I was just kind of having fun with, you know, what I was doing on that record and stuff like that. And, you know, there, again, like there was nobody kind of telling you what to do. And just the fact that like people are responding to this record that we, you know, that was a big part of my life. I was like, that's pretty wild, pretty cool.
How about you, Matt? Do you remember when that dropped, like the response?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of bananas. I mean, it's like Joe was saying, like we would go to the East Coast in multiple different scenes. It was like big, like different pockets of the same kind of states even. Like we'd go to Queens and there'd be like these fucking tough guys in puffy jackets beating the shit out of each other.
I remember that.
And then we go to upstate New York and like that whole clique, like our first run of shows was with Crime and Stereo, and like them and their friends and the Heads versus Breakers guys and like the Thieves and Assassins and like Scraps and Heart Attacks, which became, This Is Hell. Like all those guys, like we'd play shows with them and like all these kids would come out, and it was just like, and then like, all the people who like older guys who like Lifetime and stuff were really into us. It was kind of like the thing that it reminded me of, even though it's totally different and maybe it's a bad analogy, but like was Death Threat. The way Death Threat when it came out, they united the scene because it was like all the metal kids liked that they were heavy, and like all the like tough guys like the mosh parts, and then like all the posse kids there because they liked like the youth crew aspect, and that it was on Bridge 9, and it was like they had parts that appealed to all of them, and I feel like we kind of had that effect, not to like toot our own horn, but like we did appeal to like a multitude of different, hardcore kids or whatever you wanted to call the group of people that came to our shows. It was like a hybrid of hardcore kids and then like what we would end up later calling monsters, because at that time, if anyone who wasn't around in the early 2000s is listening, there was like a period of time where there was just all these like chug bands and kids in these like basketball shorts would just come and mosh to them, and they didn't really know what hardcore was. They just kind of like Bury Your Dead, and those kids, like, and then there was like the posse kids and stuff. I don't know. And then after 2006, once we started doing House of Blues level tours, we also had like swaths of like teenage kids coming out who had no idea what hardcore was. They were like pop punk kids, and like we started seeing girls at our shows and not just dudes. And yeah, it really was a wild mixture, which resulted in the early days, like in that transitional era where we were kind of like hardcore kids were starting to lose interest because we had gotten bigger, and this other crowd of like more mainstream listeners was coming out to our shows. There's a lot of friction there, and like we did a tour with that first big tour with Less Than Jake at House of Blue Size venues, and there was fights almost every night.
Oh wow, really?
I was at those. I went to the Avalon show in Boston, and I went to the Lupo show in Providence. It was you guys, Less Than Jake, I think the Loved Ones was on that. So it was like huge range of bands.
It was it was Catch 20, it was Catch 22, Loved Ones, right. and Less Than Jake.
Because like once the album's out, it's almost like I can almost equate it like a video going viral. You can't stop it. It's out there. You can't control who's going to go to your shows, And I'm sure you guys are, you'll welcome anyone.
It felt like that. It felt like we've created a monster and it's out of control. It's out of our control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you mentioned Crime and Stereo and touring with them. Is that how Alex and Christian ended up in the Mutiny video?
Yeah.
Nice. How'd you guys pitch that to them? How was that idea? How did that idea come about?
I think with most things that we do, it happened without any preparation or planning.
Nice.
They were probably like, we were probably on tour and we were probably like staying at their house at that time or something. You know what I mean? Or they were like just in the area that day and we're like, yeah, come.
No, that was on a day off. I'm pretty sure it was a day off in like Southern California somewhere. I think like San Diego or something like that.
Oh, we were on.
Yeah, we were on tour with Crime and Stereo. Yeah, but they were definitely. I can't remember how it came about. It just ended up happening. It ended up happening. Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, it's the title track Mutiny, the music video. Go check it out. It's very of the time. Like it's, I would put it up there with
killer riff, man.
Well, the video I'm saying is very of the time. You know what I mean? You guys were young, having fun, and that was, as a fan, like it always felt like you guys were having fun. I mean, I saw the DVD that came with Mutiny. It's on YouTube, and you guys are just, blasting off fireworks.
We were completely feral.
Yeah. That's an appropriate term for it.
So you guys, I know you did video treatment for Mutiny and Echoes. Any stories from those video shoots? Because I'm sure was that a first for you guys? I don't think you did music videos before that.
We did one in my old living room for Goonies.
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, our Mutiny video was the first video we did with an actual budget.
How many times did you play the song through? Because I know that's all the feedback is like, recording days suck because you play the same song 20 times.
Yeah, we just put on a boombox and just, the director would just tell us when to stop. I couldn't tell you.
The Echoes video, I was joking with Anthony before you guys jumped on. How bad did it smell in there after Korn did Freak on a Leash in that room with the holes in the wall?
Oh, it echoes?
You know, I think I found one of their dreadlocks like hanging
Nice.
out in the corner.
Yeah, Brian Head Welch's dreadlocks was hanging out back there.
Yeah, it had like some some Bible verse written on it. You know, 'cause,
Yep.
Yeah, that's a souvenir.
yeah.
But that one was like pro level. Like, that was like a great video, you know?
Was that TJ that did that? I can't remember. Yeah.
Not TJ who did the Goonies video, but TJ and what was the other guy's name? Is that team of like two guys?
Yeah.
But yeah, they did a great job. They got really creative with a pretty limited budget. Made it work. Did it in a warehouse.
Let's hit on some more tracks. I remember, so you said songs leaked before. Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember Flight of the Navigator being one of those, in the lyrics maybe being a little different, or maybe gang vocals are different. I remember something different. Like when the album came out, it was a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the demo version. We did those with Zach at Castle Ultimate, who did, like Joe was saying earlier, was Set It Straight. He did Animosity. He did Alcatraz. He did like all the Bay Area bands at the time. And it sounded very polished for like a very affordable price. But yeah, we did those to send to Eulogy, I believe. And then they leaked. They leaked on Soulseek or something. And yeah, we tweaked a couple things, just minor. Like we're like, oh, this lyric sounds better here, or this gang vocal sounds different this way.
And then you guys re-recorded This Very Moment, right?
Mhm.
We did.
That's always a risk. Did you feel any like pressure to go one way or the other with it, or make it more like the Mutiny theme, or keep the ethos of the self-titled? Or
I don't know, lyrically, like just the theme of, I think really only like the little like interludes had kind of the pirate theme, but then the songs were already kind of like written pre-pirate idea, like those, especially those demos, right? So like This Very Moment, Flight of the Navigator, like This Very Moment is about friendship, Flight of the Navigator is about tour, stuff like that.
And then I think To Be Continued might be my favorite Set Your Goals song. I think it captures everything of early era, and it's like a perfect blend. And I love the way Jordan just comes in with the vocals. Do you guys remember writing that or coming up with that idea?
Yeah. That was like, kind of like, I don't know if I were to say our most well-written song on the album, probably. We kind of like put a lot of focus into it. And it's because early on we had like a whole idea for it and like a thesis. So the way Jordan and I would do it was like, we'd pick a thesis for a song and then we'd both kind of contribute things. And I had like this page of like lyrics that were kind of like written like a poem, and we sort of wrote the song around that. And we turned it into like a song about grieving and loss. And it really connected with people for that reason. And a lot of people say that. They're like, well, this is my favorite Set Your Goals song. It helped me through a lot, or, through the loss of a loved one. So, yeah, I think because of the subject matter, it connected with a lot of people.
That's got to be, you hear that over the years from different fans, and then you add two idiots on a podcast in Maine want to talk about it, 18 years out. That it's still going to be pretty cool. Like you wrote something that resonated with people that is still talking about it 20 years on. Like that, man, I'm jealous of you guys' creativity.
You're just as surprised as we are.
Well, the tattoos, if you go online, like if you look at hashtag Set Your Goals, I looked, I was, trying to do as much prep for this conversation. There's a shitload of Set Your Goals tattoos out there.
Yeah, we've done some of them too.
You did? What's the story there?
No, we just we did. Some kid asked us to tattoo like our names in like a little kind of whatever like doodle or something like that when we were in Mexico City or some shit. It'd be like we set up like a tattoo gun and stuff like that in the venue, and so we just tattooed our names. And
can I tell you something, Joe?
Damn.
It's me.
Was that you?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, Anthony and I famously don't have tattoos, and we covered a music festival called Tattoo the Earth 2 years ago. So
yeah, we were the cool guys without
we're the only ones without them.
Yeah, the real punk rockers.
It's like getting a tattoo from a tattoo artist with no tattoos.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey guys, can you guys give me a minute? I'm in the basement. It's a little cold. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
You're cold. It's 1,000 degrees in here. I'm jealous of that.
Yeah, it's warm enough.
I know what he's doing. Actually, it just hit me. He's another dad joke.
Oh, I see what he's doing. Okay.
Yeah.
He's not getting a Set Your Goals hoodie, is he?
He might be. Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Ah!
The SETI or goals. Yeah.
I had to put the SETI our goals hoodie on. I don't know if this will make the video, but yeah, I hung onto this, and the crazy thing is, it still fits.
Wow, that is an ancient relic.
It's in good shape too.
It is. I mean, this could be eBay gold, but I'm hanging on to it.
You didn't wear it much, did you?
Not enough, right? Not
Just
enough.
Call me, yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm a huge fan.
It's got like the phoenix on the back, I think.
Oh yeah.
So whose idea was this thing?
That was also Jordan. He's like, I wanted to make like a square and just have it run into the next line. And it like so many bands did the same thing after that. It's like the stacked lettering, it just took off. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, good idea, Jordan.
So I will give Anthony credit. We lived together, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that. And I remember the sweatshirt. So like you were wearing it in 2010,
Right.
2011. So he did wear it.
Well,
then.
I do have. Do you guys remember this design? This one?
I probably printed.
Oh shit.
I think I was telling Tony, I was like, I think this is the OG, one of the early ones.
That is like our first run of like tour shirts. I think we did like our first design ever was like this girl, like had some like gradient effect on a girl's face. We made like, I don't even know, 10 of them, and then I think we did those next. I screen printed those, and then
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was trying to run a print shop at the time, or start one, and I had like a 4-color press, and then we did those, and then we did some like Mega Man design for our first like tour.
I love that Anthony hung on to all this shit, and the like vintage tour or vintage band T-shirt game is massive online right now. So don't let go of those at all, Anthony, because they're just gonna blow up in the next 5 to 10 years.
I'll sell it to the highest bidder. If anyone's listening that wants a medium, and actually the T-shirt barely fits. I had to like pull it down over me. The hoodie, I think it's a large. Maybe this is probably what, 06 that this hoodie came out.
You were like, I'm gonna do a podcast. I'm gonna wear this thing, so I wanted to. You had the foresight.
It needs to look nice. Yeah.
I knew this was gonna happen. I was telling Tony, I was like, doing like all the prep for this unlocked some memories. Back when you guys are touring heavy, when you guys are selling this hoodie, I remember it must have been on like MySpace. I think it was a picture of you, Matt, like sleeping on a bed of Set Our Goals hoodies and using the hoodies as a blanket. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was we did a run down in SoCal. I think we were in Santa Barbara at our buddy's house, and we just had there was not enough floor space or anything, so we just piled up the hoodies and slept on those. Wally from Rotting Out was actually sleeping on a pile of hoodies.
Oh wow.
It was like probably me and him.
Yeah, it's crazy that like the memories that all this stuff going down memory lane unlocks. And I wasn't even in the band, so I'm sure that you guys are reliving all these moments.
Yeah.
Hopefully not to too much chagrin. We hope you had a good time doing this with us tonight.
Oh yeah, these are fond memories.
So we usually save these like album retros for like anniversaries, 20 years, 25 years. This one's, we'll call it off cycle. We couldn't wait though. We want to have you guys on. We look back at this album very fondly, a lot of memories. It was an of the time record, but you guys kind of started that whole thing. So how do you guys look back at it? Do you understand why people still like it? Because some bands are like, look at the early stuff and are like, man, I don't get it, but the fans want it. Where are you guys at with it?
Joe, take it away.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, I fucking hate that record.
It's funny that, I mean, it's like, I feel like the progression of the each record is certainly, I mean, there's hints of the band, of what we were and the sound we had. Yeah, but I think Mutiny was definitely the more, I feel like that's like the most like Lifetime-esque record. I was listening to a bunch of Lifetime at the time, and I think so was Jordan. And I feel like that was like that kind of fit within that, I guess, box of music that a lot of people were listening to. I mean, it's just, especially considering the fact that like a lot of the Long Island kids were like super into it, and just some of the comments they made about it. I mean, even Dan Yemin we played a show at like Jerry's Pizza in Bakersfield, and we played with what was his black? Is it Painted Black? Was his band? He came up to me and he's like, I hear your band's nuts. Can I watch you guys? I was like, yeah, sure. And he's like, can I watch on stage? And I think we played with Lifetime at Slim's a couple times.
We're playing with a handful of times.
Yeah, and so I think that, to me, I think that record, like, it makes sense to me, like, why a lot of people were into it. I mean, obviously it had like some more breakdown-esque stuff. It was a fun record to make, and I mean, I think going to This Will Be the Death of Us, is definitely a lot more. We did the record with Mike Green, who was really just kind of like a pop producer. Like he was working on like worked on a record with Pink, or not Pink, Paris Hilton.
Oh wow, yeah.
Like he was like writing a record for her, so it was like definitely like, I mean, it showed in the production and and stuff. But I think that was probably, I think, the most raw and like kind of like punk or like hardcore of like the pop punk world as far as like what Mutiny was. So it was cool to tour on that and see like the response for it, and to see the kids that were coming out. And I mean, especially like as Matt mentioned earlier, just like the transition of the fans that were coming out. And I think there was a point in time where I thought that was like, we're doing something right here, because people are kind of getting pissed off at what we're doing. Like I remember we played with Anti-Flag in Norfolk, Virginia, and like we had like some kids like heckling us and threw a water bottle at us or some shit like that, and it turned into some big old brawl in the streets. So I thought that was I was like, yeah, this is cool. We're pissing people off. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a fun record for me, and I whenever I listen back to it, I was just like, it makes me miss playing those songs, and it makes me miss kind of like those times. Because I mean, like I said, it's just like it was a time where I got to explore a good portion of the world for the first time. So I mean, I think there's more of those memories that like are attached to the record than I guess the response and reaction to the record. It just was like it was the key to unlocked this big giant world for me. So
how about you, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. To echo what Joe said, it opened a lot of doors for us. And, even though This Will Be the Death of Us is probably the record I'm most proud of as a songwriter, and a vocalist, like, contributing to the end product there, like, I feel like the end product was better all around in a lot of ways. Mutiny represents a time period that is very special to me. And, just that, like, youthful kind of, like, energy that we all had at that time was just, it was, like, unbridled. It was just very, like I said earlier, like we were all just wild, like feral kids, like living in a house together as adults for the first time, just doing all kinds of crazy stuff, lighting fireworks off on the roof, like just like stupid shit all the time. And like, that wasn't really the case with later records. Like, This Will Be the Death of Us, we were already like an established touring band by then, and we were kind of like adults and paying rent while we were on the road, because now we made enough money to do that. And, we had real responsibilities and bills and stuff. But like Mutiny was just like, we were just wild animals, and it was fun. And like that era was like kind of the tail end and like the last of those times that we would have before things really kicked up into high gear, because the EP, the demo EP, like we, that was like more just the fun era, and we were just goofing off. We didn't know where it would take us. And Mutiny is what took us there, to where we would end up.
And that's half the fun. Is like, if I think about that era when I was into music and going to shows, it's like you'd go to a show and then you didn't know where you'd end up after. You party, you go out to Denny's. Now it's like, I'm going fucking home. Like, it's just different. You'll never recreate those days.
Yeah.
And it's fun to reminisce about it. It was just special. It was a lot of firsts for everyone too. It's like first time probably going to a big studio, first time touring with these types of bands first, and you just can't recreate that.
Right. Yeah. It was like you said, it was anyone's guess as to what would happen after the show. It's like
right.
We'd go play Gilman, and then afterwards it was like, oh, let's go to Frat Row and try to infiltrate a frat party and like cause, like insane. Now it's like, anyone want to get food after the show? No, I'm going to bed.
I'm going.
Yeah, I'm tired, man.
See ya in 6 months when I go to another one.
the food court in Berkeley was like, anytime you go there after a show, it's just like, it's like you and like 50 other kids that went to the show, like Top Dog or whatever, it's like you did sure as shit won't be doing that these days. So it's like, as soon as the show's done,
No.
like Matt said, it's like in the car, going home,
Yeah, hang out with a bunch of college kids.
I got work tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to get at least 6 hours of sleep so I can be semi-functional at work tomorrow. Yeah.
It's like, oh, want to hang out at the show? Okay, let's meet up before the show and like,
Exactly.
we'll have beers at this place down the street or something.
Yeah, and we'll arrive at the show late, so we only see 2 bands because that's all I can stand for. I can't stand up that long.
The back doesn't like the 4 or 5, 6 bands anymore.
No, sir.
This place doesn't have seats. What? I'm not going.
Yeah. Right.
Guys, this was a lot of fun. It's always fun going down memory lane, going back to certain eras. And I know for me, and I'm speaking for you, Tony, this era for us, like when Mutiny came out, I was 21, 22. Tony was 22, 23. It hit us at the perfect time. I think if maybe we were older, maybe it wouldn't have hit us. Younger, probably wouldn't have known about it. We hit that sweet spot. Special record. And man, like we've deep dove maybe 10 albums like this in the history of the podcast. So we save these for special albums, and this one's special for us. This one's special for us.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was a blast. Really appreciate talking with you guys tonight. And we hope whatever you have to do at work tomorrow is less fun than what this was tonight.
It's like, darn, I wish I was on that podcast still.
Yeah. and this will be out not long. It'll be out maybe a little bit before the 18th anniversary of the record, but good timing. So
cool.
We're excited for people to hear it, and we're really
Mutiny's
excited
legal,
to be able to
baby.
talk to you guys.
Mutiny is legal.
Thank you for listening to Podioslave. We are at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. YouTube, Podioslave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.